The voicemail came late at night, shattering the stillness of my carefully composed world. It was one of those moments where reality seemed to slip, casting shadows of doubt where only comfort had existed before. The voice on the other end was familiar yet laced with hesitance, as if wary of the Pandora's box it was about to unlock. "Eric," my friend said, his voice a faint whisper. "I saw something you might want to know about. Concerning Linda." I remember sitting up in bed, the room suddenly cold around me as I replayed the words in my mind. A feeling of unease settled in my gut, gnawing at the edges of my thoughts. Linda, my wife of 10 years, the woman I thought I knew better than anyone, was now a puzzle I was desperate to solve. The house was quiet. Our children were asleep, and Linda lay beside me, her breathing soft and regular. I turned towards her, searching for any sign of duplicity in her serene expression, but found none. I tried to brush off the feeling, to convince myself it was nothing. Yet the voicemail lingered in my thoughts, a constant whisper of suspicion. As dawn broke, so did the veneer of our life. Our anniversary dinner played back in my mind like a broken record, each conversation now tinged with an unfamiliar edge. Had her laughs been too bright? Her eyes too distant? The questions spiraled, becoming a silent chorus that filled the spaces between us. Days passed, and I found myself observing, noting the subtle shifts in Linda's demeanor. There was a chill in her touch, a distraction in her gaze as if her mind was elsewhere, with someone else. Each morning, as we shared coffee and breakfast with the children, I tried to shake off the feeling, to return to the simplicity of our routine. But Linda's detachment was a stone in my shoe, impossible to ignore. The voicemail was a constant companion, a reminder of unspoken truths. It echoed through my day as I went to work, where colleagues greeted me with smiles and camaraderie, blissfully unaware of the storm that brewed beneath my surface. Then, there was the neighbor, whose casual remark carved another line of suspicion into my already burdened mind. "I saw Linda the other day with a friend," she said, her words innocent yet dripping with implications. The location she mentioned was unfamiliar, a place Linda had never mentioned in her anecdotes. And then came the night she missed a family outing. It was unlike her to be absent from our children's soccer games, those sacred hours of weekend joy. She had an excuse, of course, work, she said, a meeting that ran late. Her explanation was plausible, yet the seed of doubt had been planted, fed by the cryptic voicemail that had started it all. The days became a blur, each one eroding the faith I'd once had in our shared life. Every smile, every touch felt rehearsed, like a performance that had lost its sincerity. I couldn't escape the feeling that I was living in a house of cards, one breath away from collapse. The voicemail haunted my thoughts, taunting me with its promise of betrayal. It was a riddle that begged to be solved, a cryptic message that hinted at a world I couldn't see, but could feel in every fiber of my being. Linda's coldness was both a clue and a torment, leaving me trapped in a cycle of doubt and denial. I stood on the precipice of a revelation I wasn't sure I wanted, teetering between the comfort of ignorance and the terrifying clarity of truth. But with each passing moment, the balance shifted. The voice message was a ticking clock, counting down to a discovery that would shatter or save the life I thought I knew. In the quiet moments when the children slept and the world was still, I found myself replaying those words, turning them over like a key in the lock of an unopened door. The need to know, to uncover the truth about Linda, overshadowed everything else. I was a man on the brink, aware that the next step could change everything forever, yet unable to turn back. The suspense was intoxicating, a mix of fear and anticipation that drove me forward, propelled me into the unknown. As I stood at that threshold, I realized there was no going back. The voicemail was not just a message. It was a summons to a new reality, one I had yet to face. The morning light seeped through the curtains, painting the kitchen in a soft glow that belied the tension within. I stood by the breakfast table, watching Linda prepare pancakes, her movements seemingly fluid and natural. Yet, everything felt off, a cruel mimicry of the life we once shared. Her smile was there, but it didn't reach her eyes. It was like watching a charade, where every gesture was rehearsed, every laugh a mere echo of truth. The children sat, blissful and unaware, chattering about school and friends, their voices a soothing balm to my frayed nerves. I tried to engage with them, focusing on their innocence to distract me from the questions that circled my mind. Yet, Linda's distracted demeanor was hard to ignore. Her gaze flickered to her phone more often than usual, a small screen that seemed to hold secrets I wasn't privy to. It was during this breakfast ritual, warm and familiar, that I first noticed the cracks. They were subtle at first, a brief lack of focus, a slightly delayed response to my questions. But once seen, they couldn't be unseen. The trust we had built over years, brick by brick, seemed to wobble under the weight of my suspicion. My thoughts constantly drifted back to the voicemail, its implications as vivid as the smell of brewing coffee. The sense of normalcy I clung to was slipping through my fingers, like sand in an hourglass. Even at work, surrounded by colleagues who had become friends, the facade of my life felt paper-thin. Laughter and banter filled the office, yet I felt like an outsider looking in, disconnected and restless. Their conversations were a backdrop to my internal turmoil, each word a reminder of the lie I feared existed. I longed to confide in someone, to share the burden of this gnawing doubt, but the shame of admitting my suspicion held me back. I played my part, smiling when expected, nodding at jokes, but inside the turmoil raged on. The neighbor's casual remark the other day had been like a needle, piercing through the veil I had tried desperately to hold in place. "I saw Linda the other day with a friend," she had said, her tone light, as if commenting on the weather. But those words had echoed with the sound of betrayal. She mentioned a cafe, one we had never frequented, a place Linda had never mentioned. I couldn't shake the image from my mind. Linda sitting there with someone else, sharing moments that should have been ours. My heart ached with the weight of possibilities, each more painful than the last. The fear of what I might discover twisted inside me, a constant knot of anxiety and dread. The following weekend, Linda missed our son's soccer game, a first in our family routine. Her absence was glaring, a void that echoed in the cheers and laughter around me. "Work," she had explained, citing a meeting that ran over. It was plausible enough, yet her excuse felt hollow, like a poorly crafted alibi. Watching my son score a goal, his face lit with joy, I felt a pang of sorrow for the life that was slipping away from me. I was on autopilot, applauding and cheering, even as my mind replayed the stark reality of Linda's unexplained absences. Days blurred into each other, each one chipping away at the carefully constructed world I inhabited. Linda's presence became a reminder of the silence that had crept into our relationship, a silence filled with unspoken questions and unaddressed pain. I watched her, searching for tells, for glimpses of the truth that remained just out of reach. Yet, the more I observed, the more the facade held. Linda was brilliantly adept at maintaining the appearance of our life, each smile a perfect imitation, each touch a mirage of affection. But beneath the surface, I sensed the truth waiting, a dormant volcano, ready to erupt. In those quiet moments, when the children were asleep and the house was still, the whispers of the voicemail grew louder. It was a siren call to the depths I had yet to explore, a beckoning to uncover the reality behind the mask. I found myself lingering by the phone, the urge to investigate growing stronger, the desire for clarity overwhelming the fear of what I might discover. I was a man caught in a liminal space between certainty and suspicion, teetering on the edge of revelation. The life I once knew was slipping away, replaced by the shadows of doubt and the chilling promise of betrayal. As I lay awake at night, listening to Linda's steady breathing, I realized that the journey had only just begun. The suspense, the fear, the anticipation. It was all part of a story that had yet to unfold. The voicemail was a catalyst, a whisper of the storm to come, and I was ready, finally ready, to face whatever truth awaited me on the other side. Linda's voice echoed through the house, her laughter mingling with the faint sound of jazz coming from the living room speakers. I watched her from the doorway, a silhouette against the faint glow of evening light filtering through the curtains. She was on a phone call, her voice animated, a hint of excitement lacing her words. "Yes," "I'll be there around 7, she said, before a soft chuckle escaped her lips. The words danced around me, each one a barb that pierced deeper than the last. She claimed it was another networking event, an opportunity to further her career, but her enthusiasm only fueled the fire of doubt within me. My mind raced, caught in a loop of suspicion and denial. These events had become more frequent, a convenient veil for something far more insidious. I was no longer a husband. I was a detective in my own life, piecing together a puzzle that was both painful and unavoidable. The discovery of the receipt had been a turning point, a tangible fragment of evidence that whispered the possibility of deception. It lay there among the laundry, innocent yet damning. A dinner for two at a restaurant I had never heard of. I could picture them there, lost in each other's eyes, sharing what should have been sacred moments between us. The thought gnawed at me, carving out an emptiness I couldn't fill. Later that week, I found myself caught in an unexpected meeting with one of Linda's colleagues. A chance encounter at a local cafe, where I had sought the solace of caffeine and anonymity. She recognized me instantly, her face lighting up in acknowledgement, yet her eyes betrayed a flicker of something else. Hesitation, perhaps? Or was it guilt? "You must be Eric," she said, offering a smile that felt as thin as paper. "Linda's mentioned you." We exchanged pleasantries, the conversation light, but I could sense the undercurrents of something unsaid. Her words were carefully chosen, each one a thread leading to a tapestry of hidden truths. I probed gently, asking about the work they did, the events they attended. Her responses were smooth, almost rehearsed, yet a subtle tension lay beneath. It was as if she was afraid of saying too much, of revealing the chasm that lay beneath the surface of our lives. The final straw came one evening as Linda hurriedly prepared to leave for yet another event. I placed the forgotten receipt on the kitchen table, its presence a silent accusation. Linda paused, her eyes locking onto it before flicking up to meet mine. "Where did you find this?" she asked, her voice a delicate balance of feigned surprise and thinly veiled defensiveness. "In the laundry," I replied, my tone measured, masking the storm of emotions that raged within me. "It's from a place I don't recall us visiting." Her eyes narrowed slightly, a brief moment of calculation flickering across her face. "Oh, that," she said, forcing a nonchalant shrug. "It was a work dinner. You know how those can be. Do you often forget where you eat?" I pressed, the words tumbling out before I could stop them. The accusation hung in the air, heavy and unavoidable. Her smile faltered, replaced by a defensive edge. "Eric, you're overthinking. It's just a dinner, nothing more." But it wasn't nothing. It was everything. It was the receipts, the late nights, the unexplained absences. It was the way she had begun to slip away from me, like sand through my fingers. I had started this journey seeking only the truth, yet I found myself entangled in a web of deceit, each thread thicker and more entangling than the last. As Linda left that evening, her departure marked by the soft click of the door closing, I stood in the silence she left behind. The house felt colder, emptier, a hollow shell of what it once was. The weight of her choices bore down on me, an anchor dragging me deeper into the depths of betrayal. I realized then that I was on a path with no return, propelled by a need to confront the truths that lurked in the shadows. I was awakening to a reality that was both terrifying and liberating, a world where the illusion of normalcy had shattered, revealing the raw edges of heartache and betrayal. The time had come to face Linda, to demand the honesty she had denied me. The confrontation loomed on the horizon, a storm gathering strength, ready to unleash its fury. I was determined to see it through, to uncover the truth that lay hidden behind her carefully constructed facade. As I gathered my resolve, preparing for the confrontation that would change everything, I realized that this journey was not merely about betrayal or revenge. It was about reclaiming my life from the shadows of deceit and stepping into a future where no more lies could hold power over me. The truth awaited, and I was ready to meet it head-on. The evening air was thick with an intensity one couldn't shake off, as if the very atmosphere held its breath in anticipation of what was to come. I sat alone in the quiet confines of our study, Linda's absence a stark reminder of the widening chasm between us. The house was still, save for the occasional creak of settling floorboards, each sound a whisper of the secrets hidden within these walls. It was here, in the solitude of my thoughts, that the decision solidified, a commitment to uncover the truth at any cost. The blend of disbelief and hurt that had been my constant companions was now joined by a steely resolve. I had to know, to see for myself the depths of the betrayal that had tainted our lives. With a deep breath, I reached for my laptop, the screen's glow illuminating the room with a cold, sterile light. It was a window into a world I had never wanted to explore, yet it was my only path to clarity. I had learned of a way to peer into Linda's hidden life, a digital sleuthing method that would bring her secrets into the harsh light of reality. The app one installed was discreet, almost invisible, yet it held the power to unravel the web she spun, a power I now wielded with both fear and determination. It felt like a breach of trust, yet the irony was not lost on me. The trust had already been shattered, and this was merely a means to an end. As the app began its silent work, I leaned back, the gravity of my actions settling in. There was no turning back now, no erasing the line I had crossed. All that remained was the waiting, the slow and torturous drip of revelations that I knew would follow. The first message appeared late that night, a text exchange tinged with familiarity and longing. A conversation between Linda and someone she referred to as Jay. It was a name that meant nothing to me, yet the words spoke volumes. Their banter was light, playful, yet laced with an intimacy that twisted the knife of betrayal deeper into my heart. They spoke of meetings, of shared laughter and stolen moments, each word a testament to the emotional affair that had breached our marriage. Reading those messages was like watching a stranger's life unfold, a life I was meant to be part of, but had been cruelly excluded from. Each revelation was a blow, yet also a validation of the doubts that had plagued me. I felt sick, the weight of despair almost unbearable, but beneath it all simmered a fury, a burning need for justice, for retribution. Days turned into nights as more messages surfaced, each one more damning than the last. They spoke of dinners, of weekends away, details that aligned with Linda's absences, confirming the betrayal I had feared. It was all there, laid bare in stark, unfeeling text, a betrayal not only of love but of the vows we had once held sacred. Then came the photos, a collection of clandestine moments captured in vivid detail. Linda and this Jay, their smiles radiant, their eyes locked in a way that spoke of a deep, unspoken connection. They were a perfect pair, a tableau of happiness that mocked the life we once shared. The images seared into my mind, a haunting reminder of everything I had lost, yet also a catalyst for the storm of change I was ready to unleash. Armed with this undeniable truth, I found myself at a crossroads, torn between confronting Linda with the betrayal laid bare or allowing the charade to continue for the sake of our children, our facade of normalcy. Yet the choice was clear. The time for silence had passed, replaced by the need to reclaim my life from the ashes of deceit. The confrontation would be inevitable, an emotional reckoning that would demand honesty and lay bare the scars of our disintegrating relationship. But before that, there was still the matter of Jay, the unknown variable that had woven himself into the fabric of my life. His presence was a shadow I could not ignore, a critical piece of the puzzle that demanded resolution. As I sat in the quiet of the study, the weight of my decision pressing down on me, I knew that the journey ahead would be fraught with pain and uncertainty. Yet, it was also a chance for redemption, a path to reclaiming the fragments of my shattered existence and rebuilding them into something stronger. The truth had been unearthed, and now the stage was set for the next act, a drama of revelation and revenge that would unfold in its own inexorable way. I was ready to confront it, to face the storm head-on, and emerge on the other side with the clarity and closure that had eluded me for so long. The chapter of betrayal was drawing to a close, making way for a new narrative, one where justice and resolution reigned supreme. The journey was far from over, but I had taken the first step into the light, leaving the shadows behind. I stared at the dinner table, the candles flickering in the dim light, casting dancing shadows against the walls. The aroma of our favorite dishes wafted in the air, a familiar blend of spices and memories that should have brought warmth. Instead, it felt like a mockery, a bitter reminder of the life we had built, a life now unraveling thread by thread. Linda arrived a few moments later, her expression shifting from surprise to cautious curiosity as she took in the scene. "You went all out," she remarked, her voice holding a hint of admiration that seemed misplaced. Yet beneath her facade, I detected the unease in her eyes, mirroring the storm brewing within me. I smiled, a gesture that felt foreign on my lips, and gestured for her to sit. "I thought we could use a night to remember," I replied, the irony lost on neither of us. The weight of unspoken words settled heavily between us as we took our seats, the silence a living entity, wrapping around us like a shroud. As we began to eat, the clinking of cutlery punctuated our strained conversation. I watched her intently, searching for any hint of the woman I had once known. The warmth, the laughter, the love that had defined our years together. But all I found was a stranger, a woman I couldn't quite recognize. "How was work?" I inquired, the question loaded with hidden meaning. Each word a test, each response a piece of a puzzle I was desperate to solve. "Busy as always," she replied, her smile tight, eyes flickering momentarily to the side. A small tell, a window into the world she had kept hidden from me. I held her gaze, letting the tension build, the dinner now a battlefield of subtle strategies and emotional skirmishes. I placed my fork down deliberately, the sound resonating in the otherwise silent room. "Linda," I murmured, my voice barely above a whisper, yet carrying the weight of the confrontation to come. "There's something we need to talk about." She froze, the mask slipping for a heartbeat, a flicker of fear crossing her features before she reassembled the facade. "What do you mean?" Her voice wavered, a hint of the vulnerability she had tried so hard to conceal. I took a deep breath, the moment of truth crashing upon us. "The lies, Linda. The secrets. I've seen the messages, the photos," I stated, my words steady, each one a chisel, carving away at the walls she had erected between us. Her face paled, eyes widening as the reality of my words sank in. "Eric, she started, but I held up a hand, cutting off her protest before it could take form. "No more excuses, Linda. No more lies," I said, my voice firm but not unkind. I wasn't here to destroy her, but to unearth the truth that had been buried beneath deception. Silence stretched out, a fragile thread between us. Slowly, I watched her defenses crumble, the facade she had maintained for so long finally giving way. Her shoulders sagged, eyes filling with unshed tears, the burden of her choices weighing heavily upon her. "I'm so sorry," she whispered, the admission raw, a crack in the armor she had worn. "I never wanted this, never meant to hurt you." Yet the damage had already been done, the scars etched into the very fabric of our lives. I wanted to scream, to shout, to demand why, but the words caught in my throat, trapped beneath the weight of our shared history. Instead, I reached across the table, my hand finding hers, the contact a lifeline in the sea of chaos. "What happened to us, Linda?" The question lingered in the air, an echo of the love that had once bound us. She looked at me, true regret in her gaze, and for a moment, we were just two people caught in the complexities of life, struggling to find their way back to something real. "I don't know," she admitted, her voice a broken melody. "Somewhere along the way, I lost sight of us. I didn't know how to come back." Tears slipped down her cheeks, and I felt my own heart break anew with the realization of all we had lost. Yet, beneath the sorrow, there was an unexpected clarity, a sense of resolution that had eluded me for so long. The confrontation had been a turning point, the moment where the illusions broke and gave way to something raw and true. And though the future was uncertain, I knew this was the step I needed to take, to face the truth, to embrace the pain, and to begin the long journey of healing. As we sat there, the remnants of dinner forgotten, I realized that this was not an end, but a beginning, a chance to rebuild, to redefine, and perhaps to find forgiveness amidst the wreckage. The darkness had lifted, and in its place, a glimmer of hope, a promise of redemption and the possibility of a new dawn. I sat in the quiet corner of a dimly lit bar, nursing a drink that had long gone warm. The room was filled with murmured conversations and the occasional clink of glasses, yet none of it seemed to penetrate the fog of thoughts that enveloped me. Outside, the city was alive, neon lights casting a kaleidoscope of colors across wet pavement, a stark contrast to the turmoil that roiled within me. The confrontation with Linda had left me hollow, a shell of the man I once was. In the wreckage of our marriage lay the remnants of trust and love, now replaced by an aching void. But amidst the ruin, a new resolve had taken root. The need for justice, for restitution. No longer would I sit idly by, letting the world dictate my fate. It was time to reclaim what was mine, to exact the revenge that simmered beneath my skin, a constant reminder of the betrayal that had shattered my life. I reached for my phone, dialing a number that had become all too familiar in recent days. The call connected, and a voice, smooth and reassuring, greeted me on the other end. "Eric, how are you holding up?" my lawyer friend asked, concern tinged with an undertone of urgency. "Better," I replied, though better was a relative term. "I need your help. It's time to move forward with what we discussed." There was a pause, a brief silence filled with the knowledge of what lay ahead. "Are you sure you're ready for this? Once we start, there's no turning back." "I know," I answered, the weight of my decision pressing down on me, yet firm in my resolve. "I'm ready. Linda and her lover need to face the consequences of their actions. It's time they realized the cost of betrayal." We spoke at length, outlining the plan that had started as a mere idea but had since evolved into a carefully crafted strategy. Legal maneuvers were discussed, loopholes explored, all designed to give me the upper hand in what would become a battle of wits and wills. As the conversation continued, the pieces of my plan began to fall into place, a tapestry of vengeance woven with threads of cunning and foresight. Information was power, and I intended to wield it with precision and purpose. With my lawyer's guidance, I delved into the murky waters of the legal system, seeking avenues to protect myself while simultaneously exposing Linda's deceit. But it wasn't just about the legalities. It was about the truth, the cold, unvarnished truth that Linda and her lover had tried so desperately to hide. I had attended my own detective work, unearthing the murky dealings of her lover's business, a venture built on dubious foundations that would soon crumble beneath the weight of exposure. Private investigators, discreet and efficient, had become my allies in this quest for justice. They provided me with video evidence, documenting every illicit meeting, every stolen glance, every whisper of a promise that was meant to remain a secret. The footage was a testament to the betrayal, a damning record that would leave no room for doubt. The moment of revelation was approaching, an orchestrated event planned with the precision of a conductor leading an orchestra. I had chosen the perfect venue, a prestigious gala, where the veneer of sophistication would shatter under the harsh light of truth. As I sat in the bar, lost in the swirl of my thoughts, I felt a strange sense of calm wash over me. The fear and uncertainty that had once plagued me were now replaced by a steely determination. The idea of revenge had grown from a whisper of discontent to a roar of certainty. It was no longer an option. It was a necessity. I left the bar, stepping into the cool night air, the city a blur of lights and motion. The path ahead was fraught with challenges, yet for the first time in what felt like an eternity, I felt in control. Each step brought me closer to my goal, each decision a step toward redemption. The coming days would be a test of strength and will, a trial by fire that would determine the course of my future. But I was ready to face the consequences, to embrace the unknown, and to emerge from the shadows with the truth as my guide. I walked into the night, the echoes of betrayal fading into the background. Ahead lay the promise of a reckoning, a chance to reclaim my narrative and write the next chapter of my life with clarity and conviction. The darkness was lifting, and in its place, a new dawn awaited, one that I was finally ready to embrace. The venue was adorned with crystal chandeliers and elegant decor, a dazzling display meant to exude opulence and sophistication. The gala was in full swing, laughter and conversation mingling with the soft strains of a string quartet. Yet, amidst the glamour, I stood on the edge of revelation, my heart a drumbeat of anticipation. With each passing moment, my resolve hardened, the culmination of all my planning distilled into this singular event. The weight of the USB in my pocket was a constant reminder of the truth it held, a collection of videos and photos that would lay bare the betrayal I had suffered. Tonight would mark the end of deception, the unveiling of secrets that had festered in the shadows for far too long. As the evening progressed, I mingled with guests, my smile a practiced facade that masked the turmoil within. My mind flickered back to the past weeks, the countless hours spent piecing together the intricate details of Linda's affair. Each discovery had been a wound to my pride, yet the pain had forged a new strength, a clarity of purpose that guided me now. Linda arrived with her lover in tow, their entrance a spectacle that drew admiring glances. They moved through the crowd with an ease that belied the web of lies they had spun. I watched them from across the room, my gaze unwavering. It was a surreal moment, seeing her laughter, her hand lightly resting on his arm, a sight that once would have shattered me. But tonight, I felt only a cold detachment, a calm before the storm I was poised to unleash. The dinner progressed, the course of events meticulously orchestrated. I felt the eyes of the room upon me when I finally took the stage, the microphone cool in my grip, an instrument of truth. I could feel Linda's gaze, curiosity mingled with apprehension as she sat amongst the sea of peers, her lover by her side, oblivious to the reckoning that loomed. "Ladies and gentlemen," I began, my voice steady, the room falling silent in anticipation. "Tonight, we celebrate not just success but integrity, the foundation of trust that binds us." My words hung in the air, the significance lost on none. I met Linda's gaze, the flicker of recognition in her eyes a spark that ignited my resolve. With a deep breath, I inserted the USB, the screen behind me flickering to life with images that told a tale of betrayal, each frame a testament to the deceit that had poisoned our marriage. Gasps filled the room as the footage played, the murmur of disbelief growing to a crescendo. I watched Linda's face, her expression shifting from confusion to horror, her facade crumbling beneath the weight of incriminating evidence. Her lover paled, the mask of confidence slipping away, leaving behind the raw edges of panic. The truth was laid bare, each image a dagger that pierced the illusion they had crafted. The room was a tableau of shock, the elegant setting now a stage for their disgrace. The whispers grew louder, a chorus of judgment that reverberated around them, stripping away the veneer of respectability they had worn so well. I stepped back from the podium, the enormity of what I'd done settling over me. It was a moment of vindication, yet it brought no joy, only a quiet satisfaction, a sense of justice served. As the room erupted into chaos, I watched Linda and her lover, their world crumbling in real time, the consequences of their actions finally catching up to them. Linda's eyes met mine, a silent plea for understanding, but I had none left to give. The time for explanations had passed. The truth was now the arbiter of our fate. I turned away, leaving the echoes of betrayal behind, the path forward illuminated by the light of clarity. The night air was cool against my skin as I exited the venue, the noise of the gala fading into the distance. I inhaled deeply, the weight lifted, the burden of unspoken truths finally released. There was a freedom in this, a release from the chains of doubt and suspicion that had held me captive. Though the journey had been painful, it was necessary, a passage through darkness to emerge into the light. The revenge was complete, the fabric of betrayal unraveled, leaving a space for healing to begin. As I walked into the waning night, the sky above a canvas of stars, I felt a sense of peace, a new beginning waiting to unfold. The future, once shrouded in uncertainty, now lay before me, a tapestry of possibilities waiting to be woven anew. And with each step, I embraced the promise of redemption, ready to write the next chapter of my life unburdened by the shadows of the past. The first rays of dawn filtered through the curtains, casting a gentle light across the room. I stood by the window, watching as the world awakened to a new day, the remnants of last night's storm still echoing in the quietude. The chaos of the gala had subsided, leaving behind a silence that felt both unfamiliar and liberating. I turned away from the window, my mind replaying the events of the previous evening, the moment when the truth had finally been revealed, shattering the illusions that had veiled my life. The expressions on Linda's and her lover's faces as they faced their public unmasking were etched into my memory, a bittersweet reminder of the price of betrayal. For years, my life had been a tapestry woven with trust and love, only to be unraveled by deception's cruel hand. But now, in the aftermath of vengeance served, I found myself standing at a crossroads, the remnants of my past scattered behind me. It was time to rebuild, to embrace the possibilities that lay ahead with a renewed sense of purpose. I moved through the quiet house, the echoes of shared memories lingering in every room. The dining room, once a place of warmth and connection, now felt like a hollow shell, yet it held the promise of new beginnings. I cleared the table, wiping away the last traces of a broken past, ready to lay the foundation for a future free of deceit. The journey to redemption had been long and fraught with pain, but amidst the wreckage, I had discovered something invaluable, a resilience I hadn't known I possessed. It was a strength born of adversity, the kind of strength that comes from confronting one's deepest fears and emerging on the other side stronger for it. As I made my way to the kitchen, the familiar aroma of freshly brewed coffee filled the air, a comforting reminder of simpler times. I poured myself a cup, savoring the warmth as it spread through me, each sip a step toward clarity and renewal. With the truth finally laid bare, there was a sense of closure, a chance to let go of the anger and embrace the possibility of healing. The need for revenge had driven me to the brink, but now, standing on the threshold of a new chapter, I realized that the greatest victory lay in reclaiming my life on my own terms. I reached for my phone, dialing a number I had long neglected. The line rang only once before a familiar voice answered, filled with warmth and understanding. "Eric, it's been too long," said my friend, the concern in their voice a balm to my weary soul. We spoke at length, catching up on the moments missed, the shared laughter and support a reminder that I was not alone in this journey. It was a lifeline, a reconnection with the world that had continued to turn even as mine had paused. Through our conversation, I felt the weight of solitude begin to lift, replaced by the comfort of friendship and community. The path to redemption was not one I would walk alone. With each day, I was determined to mend the bonds that had been strained by deceit, to rebuild the relationships that mattered most. My career, once neglected in the haze of betrayal, now beckoned with new opportunities. An avenue to channel my energy, to create meaningful connections that transcended the scars of the past. As the sun climbed higher in the sky, I felt a newfound sense of hope, a lightness that came from embracing the future without the burden of unspoken truths. There was power in forgiveness, not for Linda and her lover, but for myself, a release from the shackles of resentment that had bound me. I cleared my thoughts, focusing instead on the horizon, where countless possibilities awaited. It was time to write my own narrative, to carve a path defined not by the shadows of betrayal, but by the strength of my spirit and the clarity of my vision. With each step forward, I embraced the wisdom forged through struggle, ready to seize the opportunities that lay ahead. The journey was far from over, but I had emerged from the storm with a renewed sense of purpose, a vow to live authentically, unburdened by the ghosts of what had been. As I stepped into the light of a new day, I felt the stirrings of a deeper truth. In the end, it was not revenge that defined me, but the courage to face the unknown and the resilience to rebuild. My past had shaped me, but it was the choices I made today that would define my future. And with each breath, I embraced the promise of redemption, ready to write the next chapter of my life with hope, strength, and unwavering resolve.